What's going on? What's going on, guys? This is your man, Real Deal, Steele, coming to you Thursday night, November 10th of 2022. Welcome one, welcome all. Got another fantastic show lined up for you tonight, and we are going to crack into it, boppers. But before we begin, if I could just ask you to smash that like button. Takes a split second of your time, doesn't cost you a dime. Number one thing you can do to help out the channel. Also, if you're brand new here, I'd like to personally welcome you. We've got a nice little slice of the interwebs over here. Love to have you be a part of it. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you aren't a member or used to be a member, come on back. Come on back. It's just $4 a month. Great way to show support for what we're doing over here. Unlock some cool features as well. You can do that simply by clicking the link pinned at the top of the chat. Lastly, if you feel compelled to super chat anywhere throughout the duration of this broadcast, that's hugely appreciated for the time and efforts put in. Feel free to ask me or comment whatever. I will respond to those to the best of my ability. Without any further ado, let's see who is active in the chat tonight. We've got Mike Tracy, Marie Potter, Crypto Tank Girl, Keith Havens, Low Roller Scratcher, the Zombie Doge Army, Stormer 144, Sublime Dog Particle, and so much more. Rodrigo, good to see you. Love daily shows. Reminds me of last year daily show. Yeah, we're getting back into it. We're picking up the frequency of the streams and the shows here, and we are doing it to it. I'm going to switch out. Let's see here. I want to switch out my little visual on the left-hand corner there because I'm tired of seeing that one. I've just noticed I've had that one on there for the past few broadcasts. So why don't we switch that one out to something different? Let's see. What should we pick here? Maybe we'll pick Synth City. That's what this one's called. So we'll put that one there. Yeah, that one's easier on my eyes. All right. Definitely some cool stuff to go over tonight. And we'll just start at the top. And as more people filter in here. So, yeah, massive Twitter shakeups going on right now. Including a guy that I didn't expect to see go this quickly. Now, I had my suspicions that he was on his way out eventually, but I didn't think he was going to go this quickly. But there are rumors that this person was fired, but I don't think that's the case. I think he left on his own volition. And who I'm talking about is none other than now the former head of trust and safety of Twitter, Yoel Roth, is now reported from multiple sources to be leaving the company. This is a pretty big deal due to his position as head of trust and safety. This is pretty much the guy that is at the top of the food chain in terms of having to have made all those calls in the past, right, on what content is acceptable and what users are acceptable on Twitter, and kind of the guy at the top of the censorship discretion previously on Twitter. Now, to this guy's credit, he did seem to play ball amicably with Elon Musk all the way up until this moment of surprise resign. And to what do I attribute this to? Well, there are rumors, and I need to clarify at this point, these are just rumors, ladies and gentlemen, that he was asked to reinstate accounts that were previously banned, some pretty prominent ones, mind you, and that he had a fundamental disagreement with reinstating these accounts, and that was kind of the straw that had broken the camel's back and where he decided to leave the company. I've heard these rumors from a couple different sources. it would make sense to me, but I'm not sure that's the case yet. But it would make sense. So I'm still waiting for clarification on that. Fox Business also reporting this afternoon amid mass Twitter layoffs, UN urges Elon Musk to quote unquote ensure human rights are central to the company's name and management. Actually, this is on. I'm looking at my wrong notes because those are notes from I think the last show I did or the night before last. So let me catch up here and find my current notes. Sorry about that, gang. I'm like, that story looks really familiar. That story looks all too familiar, and it is. There's today's notes. Things are making a lot more sense now, gang. Things are making a lot more sense now. So CNBC reporting just this afternoon, read Elon Musk's first email to all Twitter employees, remote work over, company needs subscriptions to survive downturn. Elon Musk said he is putting an end to Twitter's work from home forever policy in his first email to the staff of the social network. He also warned that the company might not survive the downturn without significant subscription revenue. Additional C-level executives have also resigned from Twitter, including CISO Leah Kistner. In his first company-wide email to Twitter employees, new owner Elon Musk said he was ending the social network's work from home forever. He also warned employees the company might not survive the economic downturn if subscriptions without subscription revenue. Without significant subscription revenue. Musk wants to shift the company's business so that it generates at least half its revenue from subscriptions and become less reliant on advertising. But he said in the staff email that he still anticipates Twitter will generate significant revenue from advertisers. Bloomberg previously reported on the policy changes. These changes come amid additional resignation from C-level executives at Twitter, including Chief Information Security Officer Leah Kistner. On Twitter, Kistner wrote, "I've made the hard decision to leave Twitter. I've had the opportunity to work with amazing people. I'm so proud of the privacy, security, and IT teams and the work we've done. I'm looking forward to figuring out what's next," she noted. Okay. You know what that made me think of? She's so proud as Chief Officer of Security over at Twitter. The first thing I thought of was the simple fact that Twitter, up until Elon Musk's acquisition of it, was literally letting Chinese spies have full access to all of our information and data. So you won't be missed, with all due respect. With all due respect, I will not miss these people. These people were selling us out and just letting, not only selling our data to in a lot of different directions we didn't agree to, but their security was so lousy that Chinese spies had full access to all our information, leading to all sorts of liabilities and vulnerabilities in the network. So these are the kind of people that were in charge. Okay. The people that have been in charge weren't that great and weren't that great at their jobs. And this level of ego and self-importance. Now, don't be wrong. We all have our egos, and it's arguable that the wealthier among us tend to have bigger egos, right? And Elon Musk, no exclusion to that. But for all the hand-wringing that people are doing about Elon's ego, to see the level, the egocentric tantrums by way of not only a lot of the media, but now former or outgoing Twitter employees as it relates to Elon Musk's acquisition is pretty astronomical in and of itself. Particularly for a company that really wasn't thriving to begin with. And that's another huge fact that a lot of people seem to overlook is Twitter wasn't a successful company when Elon bought it. And another thing is Elon acquired Twitter in part due to, for lack of a better term, altruistic reasons to a degree. He wanted to change the level and expand the level of freedom of speech and discourse in this country. That was one of his sole reasons for buying it, and I do believe that. But he also thinks he can make it a more profitable venture. I think he's expanding his, fairly quickly, and he's been open to a lot of ideas. I know some people have been levying some criticisms at him, like, oh, he's just winging it. He's just throwing a bunch of stuff out there to see what sticks. Well, it does seem that way to a degree, but there's going to be a certain level of seeming chaos before there's order. And for as impatient as even I am getting with a few issues with Twitter, the fact still remains that he's only fully been in control for about a week now, right? So we do need to try to be more patient. In other news, I finally got my official check mark. I posted a little meme on Twitter about it. Look at me. I'm a check mark now. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Rodrigo says it's a private business. Why do they have a say? Does that apply to Facebook too? Yeah, interesting. And point taken, Rodrigo. There is an interesting double standard there. People aren't nearly as involved or up. You know what it is people just, certain people in the press and the establishment, just they really do not like Elon Musk at all, because he's wandered off of their official narrative a couple times, right? And that's all it takes for you to be sworn out as an all-out enemy, right? That's all it takes. It doesn't even take that much, folks. It doesn't even take that much. So that's where we're at with Elon. That's where we're at with Elon. So yeah, you're not going to see the same level of vitriol criticisms of the other billionaires that owned big tech and social media companies. I know Elizabeth Warren leveled the criticism that she said a couple days ago. I just don't like to see any billionaire in control of companies like Twitter. And I said, oh, really? Because you didn't have anything to say, literally didn't have anything to say about who was in control and who owned Twitter before Elon Musk. But suddenly she seemed to be feigning concern amid Elon's acquisition of it. I thought that was interesting. Pivoting to a local 12 channel news. Will Elon Musk's handling of Twitter takeover imperil his other companies? Elon Musk's handling of Twitter could expose his other companies to risk, experts say. Dan Ives, a tech analyst at WEBULL Securities, tweeted this week that Tesla investors are exasperated by this never-ending Twitter albatross. Tesla stock now down over 50% year to date, and Musk has come under scrutiny for selling off large chunks of his Tesla stock, presumably to help finance his $44 billion Twitter acquisition. Musk needs to look at the mirror and end this constant merry-go-round of Twitter overhang on the Tesla story, and his focus back to the golden child Tesla, which needs his time and no more Tesla stock sales. Ives continued. Musk is the man behind a half dozen companies, including SpaceX, Boring Company. That's all stuff we know. I bring this up because this is a pretty common criticism I'm seeing out there for people more in the business in stock market circles. Andy Wu also tweeting, does Elon Musk have a strategy? Wu said Musk is focusing most, if not all, of his attention on Twitter right now, and that is likely to continue in weeks ahead. But Wu said Tesla and SpaceX have well-established management teams in place that can survive on their own for a bit. He also acknowledged that Tesla investors are likely uncomfortable with Musk's divided attention, though Wu said that's nothing new for Musk. Musk has always been in a position of managing too many companies for too long, and it seemed to work so far, Wu said. And I think that's a fair parting statement from Andrew Wu. I think it's a pretty profound statement. Let me read that off again. Musk has already been in a position of managing too many companies for too long, and it has seemed to work thus far. So on the face of it, it does seem like Elon Musk is spread too thin. On the face of it, many logical business minds would say that he's managing too many companies and spread in too many different directions. But at the same time, it has worked for him. At the same time, all of his ventures, when you look at, and his companies, when you look at the before and after results, the outcome has been pretty clear. It's been pretty bullish in favor of what Musk has been able to do there, right? So if history is going to be any judge of the fate of Twitter, I think it looks pretty favorable, quite honestly. That being said, I do think there are a few things that Elon could be doing better in terms of Twitter and some of the decisions there. But for all I know, he's already working on these things. You know, there's only so much we know. There's only so much information we're privy to. I'm sure he's working a lot of things that with his team that we're not aware of. One of the things I would like to see is, I love that everybody has access to verification check marks, but I do think it would be beneficial to have some level of distinction between the class of check marks that already were in place and Twitter Blue subscriptions, even if it's just a different color or something to distinguish it. I think it'd be helpful. At the same time, Elon has the complicated burden of sifting through which original check marks profiles had purchased them on the black market and got them through essentially illegal means, right? So I don't know technologically how that could be figured out, but I do know that investigations are now underway because there were some Twitter employees that were selling these check marks for very high prices to people, and that there were services you could readily find on the internet that you could go through them and pay them thousands of dollars in order to secure or attempt to secure you a check mark. I mean, people were paying upwards of $12,000 to $20,000 for check marks, honestly, which is wild. Let's see what's going on in the chat here. Alan says, imagine that you suck at your job and you get fired from the real world, pansies. Audio Freak says, I'm holding off for the verification until I can use Doge. Yes, you're not alone. I've heard that from a few others as well. So where are we looking at the market right now, folks? Yesterday we were at some serious low lows, but remember I also said that I didn't think that we were out of it yet. I didn't think we were quite at the bottom yet. Now today things were pretty bullish, but now we're retracing kind of back down again, right? Now Bitcoin trading under 17,000 again after being up for most of the day. Here we saw a big spike in early morning around 7:30, which was the whole market just boosted up pretty significantly there, which is huge whale buys there. I mean, check that out. For Bitcoin to move almost $1,000 in market cap instantaneously is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. But when we see the whole day and where we are at now, now that retracement's in, we are only up about 1.25% for the day, which isn't that remarkable over the last 24 hours considering where we were at this time yesterday. Which indicates to me that we're not out of this thing yet. I don't think we've seen the low lows yet. And that's why I haven't really made any moves consequentially either. Solana, there was a buying opportunity in the wake of what happened with the unstaking of all those coins there. Solana dropping down to $12 and some change. I think already back up to about $17 and some change last time I looked. So those who were able to take advantage of that little window there of buying when Solana was briefly trading around $12 are doing sitting pretty nicely right now. Keith Haven says, I don't know him, but I'm friends with John Joseph from the Cro-Mags, but that would make sense. John Joseph, I love the Cro-Mags, one of the OG, not only one of the OG New York hardcore bands, but also a hardcore band with a really unique sound and a really unique vibe and the lyrics and everything else. And there's like Hare Krishna inspiration in some of their stuff and everything, but just a classic sound. I love the Cro-Mags. In fact, I do have, I almost got to tour the Cro-Mags. Small world, right? So the last hardcore band that I was in as a youngster, we had gotten signed to a small label out of New York. And I was going through a lot of changes in my life right after we got signed. And I decided I just wanted to leave the band. And I was going through some things too, but I also just felt compelled to do different kinds of music at that time. And I left the band at the worst time because what that label was working on for us was to put us on the road on tour, opening up for the Cro-Mags. And that's what they were working on. And I had left the band. Would have I done things differently looking back? I mean, you could always say woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's easy to say. Hindsight's always 20/20. Maybe I would have stuck in there and gone on tour for those experiences. But then again, it is what it is. I don't know. I already kind of felt disconnected from the songwriting process in that band at the time. And, didn't really play much of a role in it. But I went on to start my own bands after that, but who knows? So I know because that's where I got my start in music when I was young, playing in punk and hardcore bands. I started in high school. I started playing all ages shows in high school with hardcore bands ever since I was a senior in high school. Right. A lot of fun times. Opened up for a lot of bands. Opened up for Snapcase, Earth Crisis, Biohazard, all that sorts of stuff. And that's where I came up before going on to other things. Anyway, why is Bitcoin dropping? Alex says, and welcome, Alex. It's dropping because we are, as I told you guys yesterday, and I warned this on the show, I warned this on my call channel, that we are not done dropping. A lot of people were saying that we reached our low yesterday. I cautioned that I didn't think that was the case and that we haven't seen the bottom. And that we aren't there yet. We aren't there yet because here we have the saga of Sam Bankman-Fried, which I'm going to talk more about tonight as well, and we'll get into that. But that is definitely playing a role, and the verdict of that whole situation hasn't played out yet, and consequentially, we haven't seen the bottom yet, and that's part of the reason. Chris W. coming in with a couple big super chats. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Thank you for helping to keep the lights on over here at Steele HQ. Asks, what are your favorite bands? Wow. And 2 super chats asking me the same question. I don't know if you accidentally sent me 2 super chats. I feel really bad if that's the case, but I'm very thankful. Appreciate it so much, Chris. I have really eclectic taste. I've been collecting records and vinyl since I was a teenager. But my taste is all over the place. But as I was saying, I grew up on punk rock and hardcore bands like Minor Threat and Black Flag and things like this. And then I got into more of the crunchy hardcore sound, as I was talking about, and I played in hardcore bands. And anything from 7 Seconds to Sick of It All to all this kind of real angry stuff. And then, but I also I think that the thing is, I played in hardcore bands from the time I was 16 years old to about 21, 22, and I was already really burnt out on that stuff. And I still have a love for that stuff, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to play different kinds of music, and my taste in music was really varied. One of my favorite bands of all time is Tears for Fears. I love David Bowie. I love The Police. They're one of my favorite bands of all time as well. And I like some new stuff too. And there's plenty of new stuff out there I like too. I just found that I gotta look a little harder to find it, right? I listen to a lot of soundtracks. I listen to a lot of kind of dramatic instrumental stuff. I don't know, man. Chris, I could talk about music all night easily because the amount of it that I like, and it was a real large part of my life. I used to make my living as a recording artist for over 10 years. That's where the majority of my income came from for me to get by. Yeah, so trying to think of some other bands. I don't know if you guys remember the band. Any of you remember the old skate punk band Agent Orange? I really like Agent Orange a lot. They're really always really cool to me. Depeche Mode. I love Depeche Mode. I came up on a lot of new wave stuff too. New Order, The Cure, Ministry. I'm trying to think of some new stuff. For new stuff, I really like synthwave, the whole synthwave movement stuff. I like some degree of electronic music. For new stuff, I also like this artist called Chad Valley. He's a newer guy. I like old country western. I don't like modern country too much. I don't like the stuff on the radio, but I like the old country western, like Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash, of course. I like Chris Isaak, stuff like that too. Hell, I even like Fleetwood Mac, and but I like classic goth stuff too, like Bauhaus and Jesus and Mary Chain, and I don't know. I could just keep going, man. I could keep going. But for new stuff, I also like. I'm trying to think new stuff that I like aside from electronic. I could just go on. I could go on and on, but I think you guys get the gist of it. Anyway, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. If there's anything, Chris, you want me to check out, let me know. I'm always happy to check out new music that maybe haven't heard of. Vegas Baby is saying Madonna. I like early Madonna. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of her these days, but I like Borderline. That's one of my favorite jams. I Like Everybody. That was one of her first singles. Actually, a little known fact is Nile Rodgers, who was the bass player of the 70s disco funk band Chic, Good Times, that guy. He made his way back into the limelight by not only collaborating with Daft Punk a few years back, but he's responsible for producing some of the most prolific music in the 80s, most notably a lot of the 80s stuff that David Bowie recorded. Duran Duran. Nile Rodgers co-wrote and produced some pivotal Duran Duran stuff, even some stuff for the B-52s, and Madonna. He co-wrote and produced some of the very earliest Madonna material as well. Yeah, Chris Stapleton's not too bad. Yeah. Sandstorm. I think Sandstorm belongs on like one of the all-time greats for like a Jock Jams compilation CD. It's just one of those songs you always hear at like if you're at like a professional like football game or basketball game, like one of those interlude songs. English new wave punk. Aren't those a couple different genres smashed together? English new wave punk. I mean, I like English new wave and I like punk rock. Yeah, I like the English beat. Someone's singing one of my songs, picking up BC Left Behind. That is a song I co-wrote with my little nephew. We have a side project called Medium Fun, and we're putting out a second single, first one in a long time. It's called Total Lie, and I know that I got to communicate with my nephew. I've been a little out of touch with him, and that kid's a heck of a songwriter. He's way further along than I was at his age, I'll tell you that. Cotton Eye Joe, that's a fun one to play at weddings. I used to be a wedding DJ too for a while. The gigs paid well, but talk about high pressure, man. Every woman says she's not a bridezilla until she's a bridezilla, I'll tell you. There are a few exceptions to that rule that were pretty chill, but most of the time that's a high pressure gig, man. That's a high pressure gig. I'm not sure if I'd ever go back to that. Zombie Doge Army would like us all to know he likes big butts. Well, my friend, I can share that appreciation. 80s beats hit different. Vegas Baby says, yeah, I mean, the amount of incredible music that was made in such a short duration of time is pretty unprecedented, in my opinion, as it stacks up to the 80s. And I don't really think that's a generational bias on my behalf. I really do try to look at all these things objectively. In more than any other decade, I think even songwriters today, they reference that particular time and place in music for inspiration more than pretty much more than anything I've seen. And I think there's with good reason. Hey, Colby DuPont, welcome, my friend. Appreciate it. But I think one of the best songs ever written, probably Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. Tears for Fears is just responsible. I think as far as songwriters, I think, and I don't use the term very often, but I think they're absolute genius songwriters, and were responsible for several just genius compositions. So here we have Bitcoin making its way up. We've been talking about music and my music history. Bitcoin definitely started making moves. Let's go to the live chart, and then let's take a look at where we're at. And then let's just see where the market's at in general, shall we? So let's go to the live chart. So just about 10 minutes ago, we were at about a couple $100 down, right about 16.8. And then we took a big jump here, almost broke through at 17, but we're reaching some resistance at 17. And now we're just trading a little bit below it. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So let's just see where things go from here, shall we? Let me refresh this. But hopefully we can break out and do some things, Yeah, we're pamping the chart with the music conversation, says Zombie Doge Army. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Remember the Fleetwood Mac song? Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. That's a jam. That's a jam. I used to get in debates with my former co-writer of my main band that I used to make my living off of back in the day about the song Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac. He hated that song, and I loved it. I've always loved that song. To me, I just love the guitar, I love the melody, and he hated it. He hated it. And it's one of the few things that we just can never agree on. And one night I was trying to write a song kind of based off that general vibe and production, and he was not having it. Can you dig it? I wonder what a remake of The Warriors would be like today. Like, I want to see it, but I don't. You know what I mean? I definitely would be curious to see it, but I would hate to see it butchered. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, let's see. What else do I got on the roster here? Let me look at my notes, folks. Let's keep right on moving. Politico reporting this evening, crypto kingpin bet a fortune on Democrats. Now he's lost it all. The crisis has demolished Sam Bankman-Fried's public image as the go-to resource for policy makers writing for crypto. Crypto mega donor Sam Bankman-Fried helped bankroll Democrats' outperformance in the midterms, but any friends he may have had in Washington won't be there for him as his crumbling business empire threatens to torpedo the entire digital currency market. Bankman-Fried's Washington influence, as well as billions of dollars of his personal wealth, nearly vanished in the span of 48 hours. And it emerged that the giant crypto exchange he founded was insolvent and unable to meet customer withdrawals. State and federal regulators now investigating the exchange, FTX, to determine whether it had harmed clients or broken other financial regulations. An emergency rescue from competing digital assets exchange Binance fell apart after the company dug into FTX's financials and investigators circled. The crisis has demolished Bankman-Fried's public image as a go-to resource for policymakers writing rules for crypto, the reputation that was built on his willingness to write multi-million-dollar checks to boost Democrats. One Democrat congressional staffer who requested anonymity, say that 3 times fast, that word, because they weren't authorized to speak publicly compared to the collapse to seeing the man behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz. With Bankman-Fried's razzle-dazzle performance. I always like when people still use that term, razzle-dazzle performance for lawmakers and regulators amounting to smoke and mirrors. There are folks who are going to feel burned by this whole episode, said Isaac Boltansky, Director for Policy Research at the global financing service firm BTIG. This is a pretty big body blow for an industry just starting to get its legs under it. The meltdown, arguably the most devastating in crypto history, is threatening to derail a broader industry lobbying campaign that have been gaining traction with Republicans and Democrats eager to draft new laws to accommodate digital asset startups. Bankman-Fried and his lobbyists, included former federal regulators, were at the center of the effort. It's also wreaking financial havoc across the crypto market, creating new headaches for FTX's competitors and other firms. My goodness. And it goes on, it goes on. Bankman-Fried's Washington campaign was bolstered by his emergence as a political mega donor. Get this, folks. He contributed more than $40 million to Democratic candidates and a network of super PACs that promoted crypto and public health policies. Wow. Wow. Well, he certainly had his vision, right? Only donating to one of the two major political parties. He certainly had a pretty partisan take on where he wanted things to go. Over $40 million to Democratic candidates. And what do we get in return, folks? Now we're getting more extreme regulation coming in from the government, thanks to his actions, and more government oversight, thanks to his actions. And all of our positions are suffering, thanks to Sam Bankman-Fried. Pretty much everyone's down on their investments, thanks to this guy. And no thanks to CZ, by the way. He's no hero in this either. Like I said before, and I'll say it again, the people at the top of the space, most of them, a few of them are smart. All of them are corrupt. And many of them are stupid. And there's assumed level of trust that we have in these people that they are much smarter than us to take care of the very basics. But many times they're not even taking care of the very basics. And they're extremely selfish and short-sighted, and so full of themselves that they're not even able to see it. And we've seen this happen time and time again. I think Sam Bankman-Fried is a quintessential example of that. Now, he's going to have a heck of a legal team to stay out of prison. I don't think he'll be able to do it. Some are suggesting he's going to be locked up for life. I don't think that's going to be the case. Ben Armstrong, a.k.a. BitBoy Crypto, came out swinging today. He tweeted this out. It's time to consider an organized movement against Gary Gensler. He is as crooked as the day is long. He was literally working with Sam Bankman-Fried to checkmate the entire industry. It needs to it needs to be more than just tweets and letters. Going to be putting thought into this. To which my friend Adele, I don't know if any of you follow her, Adele Meyer, but she is a consultant and kind of a tech lead from over there in Australia. Another female Aussie friend of mine. She's great. She replied, "The SEC is a fraud, just like the FBI, who the CDC is, in my opinion." She's a very outspoken woman, and she's also very shadow banned as a consequence. We'll put it that way. And for those of you wondering who Gary Gensler is, he is the head of the SEC chair. So this is pretty rocking revelation for those who weren't aware. Is Gary Gensler was working and playing inside ball with Sam Bankman-Fried. And what did I tell you? What did I tell you before? These people before were always, most of these people in the halls of government, when they talk about regulation on crypto for our own safety, and because they are doing this, because they are responding to consumer needs and trying to protect us, most of the time when they say things like that, they're absolutely full of it. They're just making inside deals and inside plays and buying time until they can figure out how they can maximize their own personal benefit off of things. And on the occasion where you see a significant government crackdown on certain sectors, it's because they haven't figured out how to profit enough off of those sectors. And once they have figured those things out, our priority in that equation is dead last. And Sam Bankman-Fried is the embodiment of that sort of corruption. These people are just idiots. They're so corrupt. They're so full of it. Especially Sam Bankman-Fried, who was essentially LARPing some altruistic philanthropist. And now we know he gave over $40 million to the Democrat Party over the last couple of years. Well, it just gives you a good idea where he's coming from. You know? So, anyway, let's pivot. Now people in the chat are talking about Freemasons. Going all over the place. I love it. I love it. Let me double check my notes here, folks. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. The Daily Hole reporting, Cardano creator Charles Hoskinson says the FTX implosion will cause issues for the whole world of cryptocurrency. Here's why. And we're about to get to that. Cardano creator Charles Hoskinson warns that the FTX crypto exchange fiasco is likely to have negative implications for the digital asset industry. In a new video, Hoskinson said that while the liquidity troubles facing FTX won't directly affect Cardano ecosystem, they'll quote-unquote cause issues for the crypto industry. According to Hoskinson's, FTX's potential failure is likely to attract more scrutiny to the top of the industry. That's just what I was saying, folks. I mean, guys like Sam Bankman-Fried screwed the average retail investor 6 ways till Sunday by doing this kind of stuff. And they get so full of themselves and they just think nothing can stop them. They just become so cocky and so wrapped up in how much money's coming in that they just think nothing can ever stop them. And these kind of people, they never quit while they're ahead, do they? They never quit while they're ahead. And that's just the nature of greed, you know? That's the nature of it. They never learn. Also, Charles Hoskinson extended an olive branch to Dogecoin, what was it, last week? The details of it, basically, he offered to help with some coding efforts for regarding integration with Twitter and working with Elon and Twitter, etc. Billy Marcus responded pretty abruptly to that, and was pretty essentially dissed Charles Hoskinson. About a week later, Billy issued an apology to him and said that he admitted that he acted a little bit hot-headed there, and those guys have made up, right? Let's see here. What else we got in the notes? Excuse me for a moment, guys, while I'm a little bit distracted. There's a launch that was a relaunch for a friend of mine's token, and it was supposed to happen earlier today, but now it's happening right now. So I just got one eye on that launch while I'm doing the rundown here with you guys, making sure that goes okay. Anyway, let's go to the next story, Morning Glory. And it comes courtesy of, I don't know why this one's it's supposed to be from Cointelegraph, but Coin that link's not launching. It's weird. I think my internet's running a little sluggish. Breaking. This was breaking as of 2.5 hours ago. Bahamas securities regulator freezes FTX assets. Bahamas Security Exchange Commission said FTX's assets could not be moved without approval of Supreme Court appointed liquidator. The Bahamas Security Exchange Commission froze the assets of FTX and related parties today and suspended FTX's registration in the country. In a statement, the BSC said it was aware of public statements suggesting the client's assets were mishandled, mismanaged, and transferred to Alameda Research. Yeah, essentially here we have yet another example with Sam Bankman-Fried this time, mismanaging its customers' funds and using them for a lot of stupid things without any leverage. Very recklessly. And we've seen this pattern time and time again in regards to people in charge of exchanges. Now we have BlockFi. The latest is BlockFi now suspending trading. I mean, what's going on? What's going on? I told you it wasn't the end with these exchanges, right? I told you it wasn't the end with these exchanges. And they keep tumbling. They just keep tumbling. There's no safe place to keep your portfolio right now, folks. There's just no safe place to have it. If I had to pick the safer places, I would say Robinhood and WEBULL. But other than that, you know, you got to be careful out there, guys. You got to be careful out there. Now, what do you make of this? What do you make of this? There was a video posted earlier today that showed a face-off between Andrew Tate and Jake Paul. What do we make of this, ladies and gentlemen? What do we make of this? Well, to a certain degree, both of these guys are kind of notorious D-bags, to be honest, right? But they are different kinds. They're different brands of D-bag. And so who would you pull for out of these two gentlemen? I would pull for Andrew Tate. I think Andrew Tate's got a lot more substance to him than somebody like Jake Paul. And I think he's just got a lot more to say, and I think he could probably mop the floor with Jake Paul, I would guess. And there's even a lot of people that question the validity of any of the fights that Jake Paul is engaged in, whether they have been fixed or not. Slight Edge coming with the $5 super chat. Feels like a slow domino exchange rug pull. Yeah, it really does feel that way. One by one, my friend. It really does feel that way. I agree. I agree. Luminal says, I never cared for Andrew Tate, but I wouldn't mind seeing him smack Jake Paul around a bit. Rodrigo's got his money on Tate. Tate's just one of these guys. He's obviously a lightning rod for controversy, and understandably so. But I think it's more of his personality and the way he delivers what he's saying than what he's saying. Do you understand? And not that I agree with everything he says. I don't, but he does drop a lot of truth bombs. But it's just the way he says things, the way he words things, and his personality that I think people find more repugnant than a lot of times the content to what he's saying. Don't be wrong, he wilds out and says some wild things too, but you know what I mean. Slide Edge coming in with another $5 make a holler. Appreciate the super chats, my friends. He says polling for Andrew Tate. We got another vote for Andrew Tate in the incoming what's shaping up to be a Paul versus Tate showdown. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe Andrew Tate can't even be bought to lose, because Andrew Tate's he's a pretty wealthy guy in his own right. Slide Ed says, imagine if AOC cheated on Elon with Andrew Tate. My heart couldn't take it. Now that would be an interesting reality show right there. I genuinely think that AOC's got a crush on Elon. I think all that back and forth with them is flirtatious tension. I think it's a rom-com waiting to happen. I even made a meme about it. Slide Ed says a taint off. Wow. I'm just going to leave that there. But I think overall it seems that the folks here would like to see Andrew Tate pull off that duality, and I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Let's see, anything else on the notes I've taken for tonight? So it's kind of funny. There's a recent interview with the director of Airplane. Remember that movie? Some of you might. Written and directed by David Zuckner. Complained that his industry was killing comedy by allowing a small percentage of overly sensitive people to dictate whether their jokes were quote-unquote offensive. Zucker, who directed the raucous 1980 comedy Airplane, in an interview that was posted Tuesday, said that the only way that particular movie would happen today would be without the jokes. The filmmaker noted that a recent James Bond and Mission Impossible parody had received criticism for what he argued was a bland joke about a female law enforcement officer who needed a breast reduction in order to fit in a Kevlar vest. My current writing partner, Pat Croft, and I wrote a parody of James Bond and Mission Impossible. This joke is getting pretty risque. It was a mild joke about the lead female character. It was pure oatmeal, not so mild. Not one of our funniest things, but even that was too much. I thought, if that's their criteria, then we're in big trouble. They're destroying comedy because of 9% of people who don't have a sense of humor. Zucker, who also directed the Naked Gun franchise and 2 films from the Scary Movie franchise, explained that Hollywood wasn't making movies like those anymore because everyone was afraid of offending the wrong people. We could be as offensive as we like. We went where the laughs were, Zucker said, of the earlier years of his career. We never thought that we were offending anyone. But if we were offending people, we knew we were on the right track. As time went on, it got to be the 90s and the 2000s, and it did change. We never worried about any of this stuff with the Naked Gun or Scary Movies films. When we do screenings of Airplane, we get the question if we could just do Airplane today, he added. The first thing I could think of is, sure, just without the jokes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I just thought that was interesting. And I love the Naked Gun franchise. Those are great movies. Those are great movies. Except those OJ scenes now in the Naked Gun movies, they hit a little different now, don't they? Let's check in what's going on with Elon on his Twitter right now. Now calls himself the Twitter complaint hotline operator. Far too many corrupt Legacy Blue verification check marks exist, so no choice but to remove Legacy Blue in upcoming months. Wow. And he announced that earlier today. So the crackdown is in on the blue checks, folks. Look out, blue checks. Let's see what else we got here, folks. We talked about Solana earlier. Talked about BitBoy. All right, last story. This one was pretty funny. Sam Bankman-Fried's cabal of roommates in the Bahamas, this was CoinDesk reported today, ran his crypto empire and dated. Other employees have lots of questions. Surprising to a degree, it's a sentiment that pours out from people who worked with Sam, people you'd think would have had a clue. How can that be? It may have something to do with the luxury penthouse in the Bahamas. That's where the 30-year-old Bankman-Fried is roommates with the inner circle who saw his now struggling crypto exchange and trading giant Alameda Research. Many are former coworkers from quantitative trading firm Jane Street. Others he met at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. All 10 are or used to be paired up in romantic relationships with each other. That includes Alameda CEO Caroline Ellison, whose firm played a central role in the company's collapse and who at times dated Bankman-Fried too, according to people familiar with the matter. Alameda employees who agreed to talk on the condition of anonymity, citing ongoing harassment and death threats due to the exchange's solvency issues. And they said essentially this: it's a place full of conflicts of interest, nepotism, and lack of oversight. The whole operation was ran by a gang of kids in the Bahamas. A person familiar with the matter told CoinDesk on the condition of anonymity. So yeah, it was basically a group of 20-somethings all the way up to maybe 31 years old of kids in the Bahamas running this multi-billion-dollar operation and screwing each other and partying in the Bahamas with everyone's money. That's what I'm saying, you guys. And that's what we're uncovering with cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency, overall, it deserves all the scrutiny that it's getting. I mean, so many of the main players in charge of these exchanges are arrogant idiots, absolute douchebag morons. They are. They really are. It's just extraordinary. But it's all come crumbling down now, hasn't it, folks? The gravy trains run out. The gravy train runs out. And the truth has been coming to light more and more. Folks like this can only keep it up for so long. All right, guys, I'm going to wind this one down for tonight. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Hope you got something out of it. I know I had a good time. Hope a few of you did as well. Thank you to the few super chatters tonight, particularly Chris W. Thank you for your generous super chats and sliding edge. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Don't be strangers. Stay connected. Stay dialed in. Keep those notifications on. And until next time, this is your man, Real Deal, Steven Steele, signing out. Until next time, guys. Later.